Hello and welcome to Stocks Down Under. My name is Stuart Roberts and I'm one of the co-founders of our service. And joining me today from Perth on Thursday, the 23rd of February, 2023 is Mr. Todd Ross, who's the CEO of Nordic Nickel, ASX NNL. Todd, good afternoon.
Hi, Stuart. Good afternoon. Good to see you again.
So people must get confused. They don't know whether your name is Ross or Todd, right?
It's happened all my life, unfortunately, but we'll go with whatever. I'll take anything.
Right. Once Nordic Nickel gets a wriggle on, I think people are going to remember your name. I've been really impressed. You've got basically a camp level opportunity in the central Lapland Greenstone belt that could potentially, now this is my words, not yours, could potentially dwarf some of the major nickel discoveries of the last 30 to 50 years, like Mount Keith, like Voisey's Bay, etc. We're talking true elephant country, where there's at least one elephant in the neighbourhood by the name of Sakatti. Talk to us about the project you've got in the central Lapland belt and why Sakatti and your Sakatti analog are important.
Yeah, look, and I think that's exactly right. I mean, we are, as you said, in the central Lapland Greenstone belt. We have our flagship project is the Pulju project. Pulju, we have 240 square kilometres of grounds exploration land in that area. Our exploration permit is called the Hot and Barra prospects. We've got a whole bunch of other exploration licenses under application at the moment. But what we know about the Central Lapland Greenstone Belt, it is a highly prospective region for nickel sulfides, but also copper and PGEs. There's been a number of major discoveries there. As you mentioned, there was the discovery by Anglo-American for the Sakatti deposit over 10 years ago.
And this is a monster. We're talking 40 million tonnes of ore,
it's
right?
Huge. Yeah, it's right. It's 44 million tonnes, 1.9% copper, 1% nickel. Thing to bear in mind is that that discovery or that resource was put out in 2016, and Anglo have continued to drill almost continuously since then. So we suspect it's probably bigger than that 44 million tonnes, but that resource hasn't been upgraded. But it's one of the major discoveries in recent years. And as I said, we know that Finland is highly prospective, and the Central Lapland Greenstone Belt is one of the best areas, certainly in Europe and certainly in Finland for nickel sulfide discoveries.
Yeah, I like it so much. I've even got my Finnish flag here. So let's just
Very
play
good.
the flag for Nordic Nickel here. So first thing to note for the investors who don't know this company is Finland is one of the world's preeminent mining jurisdictions. I looked at the Fraser Institute survey from last year, and it came as the 13th most attractive jurisdiction on the planet for mining. Obviously, WA is inevitably one or close to one, but Finland, because of its history, particularly with Outokumpu and the original copper mines they used to produce up near Karelia, that's created a very mining-friendly culture that persists to this day. You get to benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's certainly got a long mining history. Outokumpu, the state-owned mining company, were operating there solely up until about 20 odd years ago, before they invited other companies to come into the region. It's got a very highly regarded mining code, supportive of development in the area. And one thing probably to note is, Finland were one of the first countries in the last couple of years to release their battery metal strategy. So they've got a targeted approach to try and position themselves to be a major player in the battery metals market, and in particular being a downstream processor as well to deliver into the demands for the battery cell manufacturing that's going on in Europe as well.
Right. So if you look at it, some of the maps you put in your presentation, basically there's plenty of refining and smelting capacity in the neighbourhood. That's not going to be your problem once we fully build out the scale of Pulju. What's interesting is you're already pretty big. You've got 100 and let me just check the numbers here. 133 million tonnes. Admittedly, low grade. We're talking 0.2% nickel, but with the potential that expands markedly at depth, and the geophysics are in your favour at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we have the advantage, and this is what we listed on the back of that the Pulju project had previously been explored by Outokumpu. So there were 51 holes drilled by Outokumpu, again just on that Hot and Barra prospect, which is less than 2% of our overall land holding. And those 51 holes, there were roughly 10,000 meters that were drilled by Outokumpu. we were able to, within 6 weeks of listing, relog and re-assay all of that old drill core. And the Finns do it well. I mean, all that drill core was still available for us to go and look at. And when we did that relogging, we not only confirmed that there's considerable near-surface disseminated nickel mineralisation, but what hadn't been detected previously in old reports was that there's massive sulfide intersections as well contained within that old drill core. So we put out that maiden resource of 133 million tonnes for 278,000 tonnes of contained nickel, which got a lot of some of the majors' attention, considering the value chain that exists in Finland, as you mentioned, the fact that we have smelters and refineries, in country. The only two, Norway and Finland are the only two countries in Europe that have smelting and refining capacity for nickel, or any smelters or refineries, full stop. And so that's an opportunity for us, obviously, to be able to capture the full value chain there. But really, that was the starting point. I mean, that just confirmed the fact that it is a rich system. There's mineralisation there, but all the drilling that was done previously ended in mineralisation. So, all the holes ended at around 250 to 300 metres. Nothing had been drilled below that.
Right. Now's your big chance. We're going to go deep, and we expect, given what the geophysics are saying, there could be a heck of a lot more down there.
Well, that's right. And we had the advantage of, we only listed in June last year, and of the 51 holes that were drilled, we had the advantage that 26 of those holes were still open. So we could get in and do downhole EM, and then we also did a fixed loop EM over the Hottenvara area, as well as we're just in the process of completing a moving loop EM at the moment. But that's thrown up multiple EM targets, and our drilling campaign is now kicked off. And the plan is that we'll be drilling that for the next 14 months or so, 22,000 metres of drilling those EM targets.
For those people who don't know Scandinavia, we're a long way north here. This is Santa Claus country where folks raise reindeer. Does that hamper your ability to operate?
No, look, I think, as I said, it's an area that has certainly had a long mining history. Our closest neighbour is the Agnico Eagle gold mine, which is Europe's largest gold mine. And they're in the Kittilä province, where we are as well. They've done a great job. They're working with all the local community groups, including the reindeer herders. As we are as well. We've got partnerships in country with Magnus Minerals, which is a geological services business, and they're based in Lapland. They've got all the right connections and community relationships as well. So it's for us, drilling in that area, it's all diamond drilling. We're focused on our rig can be there for 14 months straight. As I said, we're doing some of the low-lying areas at the moment where it's a little bit boggy during summer. And we've got 2 rigs operating. One of those rigs will come out in March, but the main rig will stay there and move up to some of the higher grounds and just keep drilling. Okay.
What do you think we'll be sitting on by the end of 2023 in terms of, you've got a lot of drill core to log through between now and the end of the year? What are you hoping to achieve this year?
Yeah, look, for us, it's about trying to execute the dual exploration strategy. One is building out the resource on that near surface disseminated nickel mineralisation, which we know there's plenty of. But the second component, which is really going to give us the kick in the share price, I think, is finding a Sakatti style analog, and that's what our strategy is all about. We know that there's plenty of EM targets. We're in the same ultramafic lithologies as the Sakatti deposit. We've got all the tools to be able to detect it and drill it now. We know that there's some massive sulfides already in some of the historical core. So it's now just a matter of getting that, finding that, making that discovery, and then moving to the next stage.
It's interesting. The share price certainly isn't pricing a discovery at the moment. You're pretty much back at the IPO price of 25 cents from last year.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing. I mean, I guess we've we got up to 43 cents a couple of weeks ago, but pretty well since listing, and the market hasn't been great, but we've been trading around the IPO price. We've got plenty of cash in the bank. We've got just under $10 million as at the end of December. We're fully funded for our exploration program, and there's going to be lots of news flow, coming forward in the next 6 months. And so I think it's a good time for investors to get set.
And what impressed me too, meeting with you and your team over in Perth last week, I had the privilege of meeting Julian Hanna. Now, investors who know mining will know Julian, one of the co-founders of Western Areas. later on gets involved through Mod Resources in giving Sandfire its future copper monster down in Botswana as well. So this is a guy with track record. He's one of your technical consultants and a non-executive director. So that's the sort of people that are being attracted into this company.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's not a non-executive director, but he is our technical consultant. He's I've known Julian for a very, very long time. In fact, I banked Julian when I was previously a banker at BNP. When he was at Western Areas. So we've got a long relationship. And look, Julian's he's a nickel mad guru. He just loves to get involved in anything where there's a potential for a large discovery. And when I took on this role, I sat down with Julian and just talked him through what we were working on, and he couldn't help but get involved. He's sort of coming out of, I guess, semi-retirement. I don't know if Julian will ever say that himself, but he's certainly pretty keen to get involved. And he's previously, through Western Areas, had spent a lot of time in Finland, because those assets that they picked up from Western Areas were actually were actually old Outokumpu assets. Right. So he got a relationship with Outokumpu, and then they formed a company that was exploring in Finland at the time as well. So he's got a good understanding of the country too.
Right. So tell us about yourself. You left a comfortable job banking preeminent mining projects in the state of Western Australia to get your hands dirty as a head of a mineral explorer. What motivated that change?
Oh, I guess that's it, isn't it? Getting my hands dirty for a change from being the banker sitting at a desk. No, look, I've had a great career. I've been always in the resources sector. My last role was head of Western Australia for BNP Paribas, and running their metals and mining business. And one of the hardest decisions for me was moving away from my clients. I had some really good relationships and banked a lot of projects in WA. But it was time to get involved and find the right opportunity. There were a couple of opportunities that came along, but for me, nickel and the fundamentals is just so compelling. A country like Finland has so much growth potential there, and for me to get involved early stage with a project like this was a bit of a no-brainer in the end. And I'm really enjoying getting the company set up and getting the teams in place and making it all happen.
Oh. Well, Todd Ross, well done on what you've achieved with you and your colleagues at Nordic Nickel, and here's to a great 2023. Thanks for talking to Stocks Standard this afternoon.
Great. Thanks, Stuart. Good to talk to you.